next week, or 3 quick ones. How's that? Psalm 119, 114th verse. These may be in part or in whole, describing better or less the secret place. But as you put them together, you get a picture of what God is really after, I believe, when He's talking to us about that secret place of Himself, of His presence, of living in Him and dwelling in Him. All right, let me read it quickly for you. Psalm 119, verse 114. In the King James it says this. The psalmist, not sure if it's David, but the psalmist says this: Thou art my hiding place. Okay, get that picture. You are my hiding place. Think of running to your mom when you were a little individual, and she could put herself entirely around you so that your older brother or sister couldn't get a hold of you and couldn't even find you because she has just cuddled you in herself. You are the one I live in. You are the one I hide in. You are the place of where I dwell. You are my house. In you I dwell. That's the secret place. Thou art my hiding place. David, on several occasions, found his hiding place to be in a cave, which is sort of the interior of the earth. A mouth opens up. That cave is like a mouth in the earth, and you go in, and it creates a place of shelter and hiding from the outside elements as well as the outside dangers. And he found himself hiding there. And he says, just like I'm in the belly of the earth, in a sort of sense, finding hiding and shelter, you are the place I hide and dwell in. And I find shelter, and I find fellowship, and I find communion, and I find sustaining and sustenance in and through that relationship. You are my hiding place and my shield. I hope in your word. Take your Bible, if you will, and turn to Psalm 27, verse 5. Just one other after this, okay? 27, verse 5. For in the time of trouble, if you were to read this entire psalm, you would find that it was a troublesome time for David. We're not quite sure what he's writing about here, but we could pull anything from the historical record of David's life when he was facing violence and dangers and so forth. And if you would read the first 4 or 5 verses, which we're not, you would find that he describes a rather dangerous moment in his life where he was just about ready to be pounced upon by enemies that he describes as a vicious animal. But somehow God miraculously caused him to escape. And here he says, for in the time of trouble, he shall hide me in his pavilion. His place of safety, that place of shelter, where in him I find help and strength, both physically and spiritually. And then it goes on to say, in the secret of his tabernacle. That means his presence, in the secret of where he lives, himself, shall he hide me. He shall set me up upon a rock. Okay, we can't go into that anymore right now, but turn to Psalm 31, verse 20. And for me, this here, and there are some other references that also would describe to me what the secret place is like, and we're not going to look them up today, but for me, this one would bring it home to this wonderful truth that it's the secret of his presence, the center of God himself, that secret place. And it says here in the 20th verse, Thou shalt hide them in the secret of thy presence. From the pride of men, thou shalt keep them secretly in a pavilion, a room, a shelter, where you are, from the strife of tongues. Now, just eliminating for a moment the pride of men and the strife of tongues, we won't explain what that is at the moment, but taking the picture that is developed there by those 2 phrases, thou shalt hide me in the secret of your presence, right in the center, where the enemy cannot reach. That's where I'm going to dwell. What is the secret place? It's God himself, living in him, abiding in him, dwelling in him, dwelling on him. The secret of his presence. We'll stop there for today so we can go to our class. But let me say this to us. This is not so deep as we might think, that God doesn't expect you and me as a young person or whoever I am in terms of my walk with Him to find myself in there. I've tried over the last few weeks to take what seems to be, and to me as I grew up I thought of it the same way, the secret place. Well, that's for the older saints. That's for those who have surrendered all, as if I hadn't surrendered all. That's the way I looked at it, because they went to the foreign field and left all behind. And again, that's not to sort of belittle that in any way. It's to put things in perspective for us. You may never go to the foreign field. So that doesn't mean you can't be a saint in God's kingdom as a part of His family that dwells in the secret place.